Info, the only place where talk is not cheap.
And now, Hard Facts. Hard Facts with Dowen.
Welcome back. Still Hard Facts at 91.390 Info here in Port Harcourt. I'm Dowen. It's 9 minutes gone past 4 p.m. Conversation continues. Thanks for staying tuned. And you very likely have heard about it. There's a hashtag that was trending on Twitter for some time. Talking about the death of Sylvester Oremoni, 12-year-old student of Dowen College in Lekki, in Lagos State. Very unfortunate incident, really. One has a story from the nation that seems to encapsulate details of that story. Controversy over death of student at Dowen College. Storm was broken out with the death of Sylvester Oremoni, 12-year-old student of Dowen College in Lagos. And while the family is alleging foul play, the school authorities claimed the boy got injured playing football. And the Lagos State government has stepped into the matter, instituting a probe and shutting down the school indefinitely. The incident is also drawing reactions from a cross-section of Nigerians. Now, the Lagos State government on Friday indefinitely shut down Dowen College following the controversy surrounding the death of the student. The closure followed a visit by the Education Commissioner and other top shots from the Ministry of Education. And statements have been released left, right, center. Now, management of Dowen College, it was learned, has sent mails to all parents and guardians of their students informing them the school would not be shutting its learning processes completely. It said it would be moving online for safety and transparency. Now, Junior's father, according to a report by the Cable, planned to withdraw him from the school following reported cases of bullying in the past, but reconsidered his position. Oremoni's family said Dowen had temporarily suspended the boys involved after the family's eldest son took it up. He said Junior was also switched to a new hostel, but the bullying and intimidation persisted into the new term. And as far as the exact incident that led to his death, I have a story. Like I said, there's several stories here actually. How about this one from the Vanguard? Hashtag justice for Sylvester. He said, "They will kill me," says father of dead Dowen College student. The father of Sylvester Oremoni, the student of Dowen College who died from the injury, said he allegedly sustained from a beating by his fellow students who wanted him to join their secret cult group, and he said his son lived in fear. There's let's see. Now, some Twitter user who did not want to be identified, who claimed to be the cousin of the deceased, on Wednesday called out the school on the micro-blogging platform. Also, let's look at another story here as well, still related to this matter, or several stories actually. This one reportedly an account by a student, who incidentally reportedly also was not just in the school, not just in the hostel, but the same room when the unfortunate incident or beating and kicking was said to have happened. Sylvester Oremoni, beaten by a senior student, Dowen College mate, speaks. A schoolmate of Sylvester Oremoni, the Dowen College student who was bullied to death by some seniors, has come out to deny that Sylvester picked up an injury while playing football. He said a 12-year-old boy was tortured by senior students for allegedly snitching on them to the authorities. The boy, who was a witness to the beating, narrated what happened in a note to Tamara. He also said the dormitory master knew what happened and that they were just lying on the internet. Most shockingly revealed that Dowen College authorities did not inform them of Sylvester's death. He said they lied to them that he was being withdrawn from the school. I tried to explain to the principal what happened, but they keep shutting us up and saying he was playing football even before Sly's uncle came to pick him up. Me and my friend told our dorm master, Mr. Ahmed, you understand why I chuckled just now, what really happened, but they didn't want to listen to us. I can't sleep, so I decided to speak the truth. Everything Sly said before he died was the truth. And so that's where we are today, and that's what we have in this country today in school, especially boarding houses, spending significantly more time in school. It's a safe place for children, really, schools. And how can students get the care, attention, and education for which they attend school without any attending challenges or even something tragic and unfortunately, like this incident happening to them. Now, these and several other matters we're discussing right now. My guest on the show, who's joined me, is a seasoned educationist of several decades. Kamal Ahmed is principal Bloombreed High School here in Port Harcourt. Kamal Ahmed, good evening to you. You're welcome to Hard Facts.
Good evening, Dayo. Good to be here.
And that's why I chuckled a while ago. In one of the accounts I was reading, the Dom Master at Dowen in Lagos is a Mr. Ahmed, and you are Kamal Ahmed. Yeah. Even though there is no connection between both individuals. But you're welcome once again.
Thank you, please.
I wish the circumstances were different, but well, here we are. The conversation we must have nonetheless. So straight to the point then. Are schools a safe place for children?
Yes, I think schools should be safe places for students.
Should be.
Should be.
But they may not be.
Yeah, but reality is pointing to a different thing entirely. But it is the goal of every school, and it should be the duty of every school to exhibit the duty of care, to show due diligence, and to show adequate concern and preparation for the safety and health of every child. So that is the expectation. And every school worth that name should let students come in, graduate, have academic attainment, and not go out in as corpses on body bags. So what has happened that's leading to this conversation is quite unfortunate. It's quite an unexpected outcome. It should not be the narrative. Is
it really an unexpected narrative? And here's why I asked the question. Yes, one might be somewhat shocked considering that Dowen is set to, it is a private school, yes, and it's said to be one of the high-end private schools we have in the country or in Lagos. Reportedly, a lot of money is paid by parents and guardians. So you would expect that extra care, extra attention that should be paid to the students who go there because of the amount their parents or guardians are made to cough up to ensure they can keep on going to that school. But when I ask the question, is it really an unexpected event or occurrence? Because the issue of bullying and its other ramifications appears to be quite commonplace in our school system. And I say this even experientially. I went to a federal government college, not a private school obviously, but I had my fair share. I experienced my fair share of bullying, and some of my experiences were downright even criminal. What some senior students did to me in school. Thankfully, I did not die or suffer any major, severe or life-changing or altering injuries, but some of those incidents could easily have amounted to that. And maybe in the course of the conversation I might mention a thing or two, but some of those things could have led to that. Different circumstance, different scenario, different timing, or maybe. So can we say that, and I hear that these things go on, they're quite regular or commonplace in our schools, both government-owned schools and even private schools as well. How can we then, aware that these acts go on, and then not expect that at some point or time something tragic like this would happen?
Dayo, the reasons why I say it's an unexpected outcome is because there's been an evolution. There was a time the schools were like the jungles. We had the government colleges, we had the federal government colleges. They were the equivalent of the private schools. Then there was a deterioration. There was influx and influence of external environment into the school, and bullying became a fashion. But when the private schools came, the way the top grade private school like mine are structured is such that we are very careful learning from the past and the issues like that have happened to all sorts of people around that we have heard about. We're able to put things in place to guarantee the welfare of every child by the ratio of student to teachers to learners, the spaces available, the apparatus, the manpower to monitor and supervise and ensure that these things do not happen, the process of building confidence in students to speak up. So it is expected that such thing as this will not happen, because if people should say it, there are technology supporting supervision in schools. We have CCTV camera in schools like mine and many other schools. So all these things, and we have security men, we have hostel parents, we have teachers who live on campus. I live on campus in my school. These things should not go unnoticed. So that is why to me it's shocking, it's bizarre.
So let's talk about this particular incident. Even though it's still a lot of what's in the public domain right now, still within the realm of allegations and counter-allegations, investigations are ongoing. But let's work with the information we have. Assuming things played
happen, who stood on the side of the aggressor instead of on the side of the victim and refused to talk and did not snitch. There's also a part of the school authority, from what we have heard, I don't have facts about them, who also did not speak the truth to parents, did not own up that something had gone wrong, did not come out clean to say, yeah, we made a mistake, this has happened. As bad as it may be, an error, we're going to learn from this, or we're going to restructure, we are going to do. I think the damage was aggravated, the anger was small, because people neglected that they dropped the ball, this happened. We have young people who did not snitch, who did not speak up, who had the confidence to speak, but who did not speak up for the victim. We also had a school authority who also did not do their duty of speaking the truth. Then we have the role of parents. How did these children who are the aggressors, where did they come from? How did they get to this level? And it's also widely alleged on social media now that those children have been ferreted out of this country. They've been taken to some hiding places, and I've seen some parents also writing on social media now defending their words. All these are points where things are really, really wrong. Parenting is a multi-stakeholder process. It should not be left in the hand of one person. But the person who has the duty of care, who accepted to look after a child, who got paid to do so, who gave confidence to parents, who did not do it, is the school. And the school and its agents who are responsible for that process, like the teachers and hostel parents, they are culpable and should be held accountable.
Let's take the three perspectives you brought up now: the school, the students, and the parents as well. Let's start with the school. I think that's a very critical part of this conversation. What should the school have done differently? Because many times, teachers do their best. The school has a good intention. You even said that before. Every school set up with that positive intention to care for the students, to pay attention to them, to educate them, and all the other positives that an education, especially of a high quality one, is supposed to impact on the students. But things do go wrong sometimes. What specifically should the school or could the school have done different from what we know right now that would have averted this unfortunate incident?
Okay, first for me, what kind of people do we recruit into the teaching profession these days? So what kind of people do we have? Teaching to me is not a profession, it's not a vocation, it's not an occupation. Teaching is a calling. If you don't have it, you don't have it. Don't even come near it. So what kind of people are put in charge of these children? What kind of KPIs are they given? What kind of control do we have to ensure that the right things happen? What kind of supervision do we have on the processes that are put in the hands of these teachers? What kind of environment, what kind of hostel structures do we have? What kind of structure do we have to mitigate, to notice a wrongdoing or an event that could be fatal, and then gives us the room to quickly jump into it and stop it or mitigate it? What kind of technology is deployed by this school? What kind of feedback mechanism, what kind of training do they give their teachers? So what kind of room for expression do they give their students? What kind of leadership training have they given their students to own up, to accept responsibility, and be able to speak up, even to speak truth, to speak to power, to speak to authority when things don't go well, to speak truth to power? What kind of training? So if all these things are mixed by a school, if the environment is not conducive, if the manpower is poor, if the technology is not supportive, if the supervision is made cumbersome and difficult, if there's no feedback mechanism, if students are not emboldened to speak, then this will happen.
Still talking about the school. Now, if things like this can happen in a private school, and I get the feeling that our conversation so far might even seem sort of elitist, and we're talking about. It appears to me, I'm not saying that necessarily so, maybe not even from your end, but it seems to me thus far our conversation might seem somewhat elitist, because it seems we're describing what obtains or what should obtain in a normal scenario.
Yes.
How about public schools? I mean, who does all these things you're saying in public schools? Who watches after anybody? You don't even have teachers there half the time. They're probably at oil mill trying to sell something, for example, here in Port Harcourt or in River State, and the likes of it. And then we have school principals who are only concerned with collecting all kinds of money for this and for that. And what is their fate?
Well, I think it's worst with public schools. And maybe I'm talking more about the private school because that's my own space currently. But I think I also did some 14 years in public school, and I know public could be a very tough terrain to work with. And because, again, this is coming from a lot of schools are not fenced. They are in wrong locations. The manpower is motivated the training is poor. But I think we have to take a second critical look at the teaching profession, the process for recruitment, the training, the reward, and all that, so that we can attract very good manpower into this profession. Teaching today is seen as a profession for all comers, where people who are ill prepared. And when this happens, we're exposed to all kinds of dangers, including the kind that led to the death of Sylvester, which was avoidable. I think in the government space, that's the huge, the government case is even more difficult. They are both regulators and operators. So our influence over them is limited. But I think the challenge of government schools is infrastructure, quality of manpower, kind of reward, orientation, attitude, and all this put together. So I think we must look at the whole spectrum of what constitutes the public sector of the Nigerian education system. And that look must be deeper, and the look must be point blank, and we must be able to look at ourselves eyeball to eyeball and speak the truth. I think the entire school system in Nigeria, both private and public, need to be revamped. But the danger is more in the public sector.
Let's talk about the second angle to your tripod to this, which is the students themselves. I do feel some nostalgia now. I'll go back to my experience in school as well briefly. I went to Federal Government College, Ogbomoso, as I mentioned a while ago, and I had my fair share of being bullied as well. And I dare say that if similar things like this did happen, it wasn't uncommon when I was in school for a senior or seniors to beat up, to dehumanize, traumatize, even touch a junior student. It wasn't uncommon. It was a regular thing, you know. I mean, I remember this one senior, for example, who just took delight in asking me to lie down on the floor in front of him. His bed was on the lower bunk, so he would sit on his bed with his feet on the ground. He would ask me to lie in front of him, and he'd be replicating some scenes from China's movies. He would stretch his leg over my back and then use the heel of his foot and slam it into my lower back, between my lower back and my waist. He would just be slamming it, making some funny Chinese movie sounds. And he was simply enjoying that whilst causing me excruciating pain. And I did nothing to deserve that. And there were several other examples. And the other students even suffered worse fate than I did. But in spite of what that senior did to me, I never found the courage to report it to anyone. Other students who suffered similar or worse fate did not report to anyone because it appeared to be the culture. That was how things were. You couldn't report to anyone. It might get worse because we also saw incidents when students reported to someone. Maybe said senior was beaten or suspended. The senior would come back. It was like the proverbial demons that was cast out. And when he came back with legions, a multitude even worse than himself. And then your punishment and your torture continued even worse. So, can we really blame the students, or is it the culture entrenched in those schools that caused them to not speak up?
Yeah, I think getting your student to speak up is a function of your systemic culture. In my own kind of environment, and I'm not sounding elitist, but reality is that an average young person, adolescent of today, is 100 years away from adolescent of your own time and my own time. These guys are bolder now. They could speak up. They are more communicative. They are more informed. They could speak up. But I think the system, this kind of school they attend, should also provide them with that platform to speak up. Schools should have an anti-bullying program, and they should get the students to participate in the anti-bullying program. They should have a mentoring program where students are able to speak to some private individuals, some teachers or leaders in the school. They have confidence in these students. Have formed masters. They have subject teachers. The list of the school have visiting days when parents come in. There are several layers where this communication should have taken place. If a child did not talk to a principal, did not talk to a vice principal, did not talk to a form tutor, did not talk to a mentor, did not talk to a subject teacher, did not talk to parents on visiting day, something deeply is wrong. But I think it is the function of every school to try the best they could to create an enabling environment for students to speak up. Unfortunately, the major weapon of a bully is silence and threats of consequences if you speak up. And if you let them cow you in, or make you bow to that threat, then they continue to bully you forever. Bullies are cowards. They need your cooperation, your silence, and not speaking up. But every child should be taught what constitutes bullying, how bullying happens and the consequences. And once this is done and these children are given the opportunity to speak up, every school should create an avenue. Even if what they can do is as little as putting a suggestion box somewhere that is assessed by somebody they can trust, somebody had their authority who will do this thing diligently, that should happen. But every school must open sufficient avenue for students to speak up. They are the victims of bullying on most of the times. They should be given opportunity to speak up. So if the schools have structures that do not support their students to speak up, bullying will fester in those schools.
And how about the parents? You talked about the parents as well. In this particular case, in Sylvester's case, there have been an earlier incident of bullying by some of these students who are alleged to be responsible for his death now. The matter was reported. Certain steps were taken. Parents thought about changing schools, but they changed their mind eventually. He was moved to a different hostel. Some might say they did what they could have done. Mother now is very sad, obviously. Also recounted how that he had become a recluse, too much into himself, not talking. She was worried. She asked him, he would say nothing. She spoke to a friend of hers about it. The friend said, oh, it's just, a young boy becoming an adolescent. That's how they are, and let things be. Sadly, this one is dead now. Could the parents have done more? Can parents... What is more, really? What is more?
Well, a lot is more, and a lot could be done. And when we look at parental failure in this process, it's both ways. I'm sure the parents did not... Everybody had the knowledge of hindsight now, so we are more analytical, we have more data to speak to. But no parent will wish that the son died. But I think parents should be close to their words. They should understand their children, and they should not take things for granted. But don't also forget that the aggressors also have parents. The student who caused the death of Sylvester have parents. And in the past, when this matter was reported by the school and the students were suspended, what did the parents of the aggressors do to help their children to overcome a tendency that's like a maniac tendency of bullying? So on the side of Sylvester's parents, maybe they trusted, they did not have sufficient conviction that something was going, like as fatal as this was going to happen. So they felt the child was growing, but do they have sufficient knowledge of their words? I don't know. And I don't want to be judgmental here because they're in pain. They need sympathy and support, not criticism. But I feel, honestly, that parents should take it upon themselves to listen to their children more, to engage more, and have more conversation. And parents whose children are aggressors, the aggressive behavior will have shown in one way or the other. Some people have traced it to some children actually behaving that way in church before they behave the way they behaved in school. Parents know it, but some parents love their words so much that they gloss over the wrongs they do, and then it's words go to this point to hurting other children and probably even criminalizing themselves in the process. I think parents should please engage with their words. There should be some kind of conversation, engagement. You must follow. You must study your children and understand very well who they are, and don't take complaints from them lightly. Don't push it away. Focus on the things they tell you. They just could be suffering in silence, and the only person they can speak to will be you. If you drop the ball with your children, you have caught their last safety net. They will be confused. So I think parents have to do more engagement. Parents have to do more teaching. Parents have to do more counseling. Parents have to do more coaching. Parents have to do more mentoring for their young people, because this problem everywhere. The children see all these bad examples in movies. They see this on the street. They hear people conversations. They see how aggressive even on the street policemen are. You see how law enforcement is done in Nigeria. You see what street vagabonds have become on the cities, making money out of being henchmen. So a lot of things are happening. We must now start a process of reorientation of our young people, both ways. But key to this, that parents must fully anchor their children in a proper engagement to a point where they can make some fair prediction of an attitudinal change in their children and the trend of that change, so that they can step in quickly when they feel that things are going out of hand to provide remedy and stop the drift.
It is Hard Facts 90.3 Nigeria Info here in Port Harcourt. Safety of children in schools is what we're discussing right now. Of the unfortunate incident in Dowen College in Lagos, where Sylvester Ebony, now dead, is said to have ended that way due to injuries sustained that he had to some seniors while in school. Kamal Ahmed, principal of Bloombreed High School here in Port Harcourt, is my guest. To go for a break now, we'll return shortly. Conversation will continue, and you can possibly join in via the usual platforms. Do please stay with us.
We start you off in the morning, keep you all day, and keep you company, all night long. We are 92.3 Nigeria Info. The first talk station of the nation. And now, Hard Facts. Hard Facts with Dowen.
Welcome back to Hard Factor 90.3 Nigeria Info here in Port Harcourt and Dio. 16 to go before 5 o'clock. The news update is up at 5. For the moment, safety of children in schools is what we're discussing of the unfortunate incident in Dowen College in Lagos, where Sylvester, a student there, now dead, is said to have died as a result of injuries sustained at the hands of bullies or some senior students over there, allegedly, of course. My guest, Kamal Ahmed, is the principal of Bloombreed High School here in Port Harcourt. Kamal, you're welcome once again.
Thank you, Dai.
Join the conversation now via the usual platforms. We're WhatsApp on 0809-030-6416. We are live on facebook.com/Nigeria Info PH. Greg Madua BB on Facebook goes, quite unfortunate that we now pretend as if we didn't know that this sort of thing has been happening in boarding schools for ages. Because the death of the 12-year-old boy in Dowen College in Lagos, everyone is now feeling ignorant and expressing shock. Some people who are even married today went through this horror in boarding schools, all in the name of discipline. Some parents even use it to threaten their kids that if they keep misbehaving, they will be sent to a boarding school where they'll be dealt with. Every 4 out of 5 persons who graduated from a boarding school must have experienced this horror. It's a very bad legacy that most of us have left behind for others to suffer, yet we're here expressing shock. Bullying goes on every day in both day and boarding schools. We all have to condemn this evil and jointly put an end to it. And via WhatsApp, our children are safe in school if parents work in tandem with the school rather than antagonize the school when they discipline their children for bad behavior. I attended a boarding school and 2 of my children are also in a private boarding school and they are well taken care of. Bullying is not a boarding school problem but a general school problem. In the US, the bulk of bullying is in day schools as they don't have many boarding schools. And I want to ask you about that now, Kamal, if you don't mind. If you followed the discussions, and there are lots of it on social media, for some school of thought, the problem is boarding schools. Don't send children to boarding schools. It's not good. It's a terrible idea. The worst things you can imagine and even can't imagine take place there. Is that the case? Are boarding schools the problem?
I don't think so in absolute sense. Boarding school will have a high congregation of young people for 24 hours day in, day out. But again, children are exposed to bullying either in the school spaces or outside the school spaces. And the day students come to school, they interact with seniors like the boarding students do. But they could be bullied within that space when they are in school with their counterpart who are seniors. Then they also go out into the street where they are home, in the area where they live, in places where they share spaces with others. They could still be bullied in those places. So bullying is not majorly a problem of boarding schools. It could have happened in day school or in a boarding school. Bullying could happen anywhere. People are bullied at home, people are bullied at work, people are bullied in schools, people are bullied in places where they learn trades. Bullies are everywhere. Those persons who bully others are just everywhere, and you could be a victim anywhere. So I don't think it's a boarding school. But the difference here, if it happened in a day school, the child goes home after school, is able to speak with the parents about their experiences. In boarding school, it takes a longer time for the child to get to reach the parents to speak. For instance, if a child is bullied with a long time space between when the event happened and the next visit or when they're able to speak with the parents on phone, they probably will have suffered before the parents get to even have a chance to intervene. So the reaction time for parents, if they have children who will speak up, is shorter than in a boarding school. Because the one that occurs is also in a boarding school. The boarding school is spotlighted currently.
How about the said reaction of the management of Dowen College to this as well? Initially denying that there was any attack on the boy, insisting that he suffered injuries while playing football. The father also alleged that at some point the school principal called him and it was an unsavory conversation asking why they would put up the matter on social media, and the continued denials by the school that anything untoward took place. And even when the school would communicate to parents and guardians, at the time the school was closed, also saying that, but don't be perturbed. Academic activities will still continue, but on our online portal. What do you make of the reaction of the school to the matter so far?
Adedayo, if all that has been said actually happened, the school was very irresponsible. They acted in bad faith. To have denied what happened was very unfair. I think the duty of a school is to ensure something bad did not happen. But once it happened, you're already down. So face up to it, engage, speak the truth, let people see your honesty and openness in this. It will be your saving grace. Because the era where we are in, this thing happened where there are witnesses, there's social media, things are not going to be buried this way. Or the school got themselves into this space because they lied. And to also put their learning need to continue, business continuity above the emotional consideration for the family that lost a child was also very insensitive on the part of the school leadership and owners. If this account that we have is a true account, that is a shame. It shouldn't have happened. It's quite unfortunate. No school that has a duty of care should do this or should react this way to this kind of tragedy. It's quite unfortunate. I disagree with what they did.
Well, let's take a few calls right now, if I can. Number to call once again, 0817 93 0002, 0817 93 0003, and 0817 93 0007. Hello, hot front to open.
Yeah, good evening.
Hi, go ahead.
I just want to say something, just add something. My colleagues there, I call them my colleagues because I am in the public sector. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
All right, I am in the public sector, and I don't like this idea of comparing bullying in the private sector and public sector and making running down a particular sector. I have taught in the private sector. I am now in the public sector. Bullying is terrible. It is not worse in any sector. It is not terrible, more terrible in any sector. So in the private sector where I taught, I don't want to mention the name of the school, but it's one of the elite schools in Port Harcourt. I had a case that we recorded once. 2 children in my class had an issue. And the following day, this particular girl traced this boy's nail to the kitchen and poured detergent in his teeth, stirred it, and left it there. The only saving grace was that one of the kitchen staff saw her do that thing and picked up that case. That case was handled and covered up. The boy whose tea was poisoned didn't get to know about it. The parents didn't get to know about it. Nobody got to know about it. That case was handled that way. Now, if that boy had drank that tea and it was something worse than that, something terrible would have happened to the boy. They probably would have been blaming the kitchen staff or something like that. Bullying happens in private sectors. It happens in public sectors. It is terrible. He makes a statement. He used a phrase or a group of words. He said something that I think is very derogatory. He said the quality of manpower in the public sector. That's very derogatory. Very derogatory for my colleague who is in the private sector. We are speakers. Our role is to
I think, madam, whilst I do appreciate your position and you have a right to hold the position, I think that you've somewhat derailed from what the subject of the matter is, and I'm quite certain that you may have taken his comments out of context, but permit me to say as well that that's not what this conversation is about, really. Whether or not quality of teachers in public schools is as good as private schools, or whether you have more bullying, it's not. Let's not degenerate the conversation into what it's not.
Okay. I'm not degenerating it. I'm only saying that we should condemn bullying. But not
let's make the conversation about that, please, and not whether the quality of teachers in public schools is better or as good as the one in private school, which is what you're doing right now.
Start from home. Parents should notice their children who have traits, and they should be able to start working on those children before they are sent out to school. And then bullying should be handled at every point where it is noticed. Nothing should be covered about it.
Madam, great to hear from you. Thanks for your contribution. And that's what the conversation is about. So let's try to stay on point and to stay on course. Via What's up? Good evening, Mr. Kamal. Like Mr. Kamal said, there was supposed to be several layers of monitoring. They should afford victims to open up on being bullied. Many victims don't bother coming forward to report because they lack confidence in the school's authority or even their parents or guardians to save them from potential repercussions of reporting bullying. Some might say it's not primitive or even draconian means of handling bullies, but giving the school bullies open corporal punishment in front of their victims and other potential victims sent a psychological message to the bullying victims. The bullies themselves are also vulnerable to pain and fight. It also gives more victims confidence to come forward. That's in text. I'm not even sure how effective that could be. I'm not expert, but I went to school as well. Sometimes we find even those bullies, they're called up to front of the assembly and beaten. They still go back to keep bullying the students who reported them, or others for that matter. But finally, your comment on this in about a minute as we wrap up.
Okay, thank you very much, Dayo. But first, let me let the first caller, know that I was also a public school teacher, and I did 14 years in public schools. So I'm not castigating the public school. We are together. It's one business. I'm only just speaking the reality as I know it to be. I might not be accurate, but this is the truth as I know it, and I've just said it that way. I did not intend to segregate or persecute or put public school, drag them under the wheel. However, I think, to my own mind, that we should all come together, unless I miss what I intended with the question.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think bullying by whatever standard should be condemned. And like what Daya said, will an approach work? No, I think we should have a multi-layer approach to dealing with bullying. But I think our young people need to be trained. People need to continue to explain to them the consequences of their actions. For instance, the bullies in Dowen College, though Sylvester is gone today, for the rest of their lives, either physically or emotionally, they will be miserable. It was a needless pain to cause. So we should let students understand that their actions to others or others will have consequences for them. And again, seniority is not forever. You are my senior in secondary school. You don't mean, does not mean you'll be my senior in the university. Does not even mean you'll be my senior in the place of work. Does not mean you'll be my senior forever. We are going to meet on the street after. Secondary school is the only place where seniority is valid. It ends there. Every young person should understand this, that you do not have seniority forever. You have it only in secondary school. And you can live the first 17 years of your life in secondary school and make the rest 17 years to 34 difficult to live by the things you do.
We have to wrap it up on that note. Many thanks to join the conversation. My guest, Kamal Ahmed. He's a principal of Bloombreed High School in Port Harcourt. Many thanks for your time.
My pleasure to be here.
Commercial break right now. We go for the news top of the hour. And afterwards, is ASU going to go on another strike? Your take on our return. Please stay with us.